Good afternoon, everyone. It's 4 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started today. We have a little bit of a different time for today's public information meeting, so thank you everyone for joining us, all of the attendees who have joined today, as well as all of our panelists from BC Wildfire, as usual, who are here to give us an update on wildfires in the Thompson-Nicola Regional District. My name is Michelle Nordstrom, and I'm the Information Officer with the TNRD's Emergency Operations Center. Before we get started with today's meeting, I would like to take a moment and acknowledge that we connect with many First Nations communities across our vast regional district, and today are located on the Tecumseh territory, situated with the unceded ancestral lands of the Secwepemc Nation. The TNRD appreciates the partnership that we have and respect the territory and land on which we are meeting from today. A recorded version of this meeting will be available to stream on demand on our website at tnrd.ca and on our YouTube channel. All attendees joining us today have been muted to allow for our presenters to speak on the current wildfire situation in the region. There will be no live question and answer period at today's meeting, but attendees are always welcome to submit questions in advance, and we'll address those questions that we receive today. So to start, we'll be getting an update from the BC Wildfire Service. And I think we are going to start with hearing an update on the White Rock Lake wildfire.
Yeah, hello everyone. It's Forrest Howard here, Fire Information Officer with the White Rock Lake wildfire. I'm going to keep my video off because I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just hotspotting off my phone right now, so that will improve the quality for everyone. So I'm just waiting while this screen loads. So first off, I'll just go over a bit of where the current smoke is. If you are in the area, you can definitely see that there's some current smoke kind of coming over off of the eastern side of the fire near and coming over Vernon. So it's kind of quite visible at the moment with how clear of a day it is. So that fire is currently quite active. Currently, thank you, everyone can see my screen here. So on the eastern side, currently in the sort of Naswedo Creek drainage, same spot that, if you've been following the wildfire note page, has been burning a bit more actively than the rest of the fire for sure. So I'll just we're going to have a black line for today. So I'm just circling the area where we're seeing a bit of that activity. So it's still burning, not aggressively in any rate of spread, but it definitely is in some heavier fuels, and so it's putting off a bit of smoke. And with how clear it is today in the surrounding area, it's definitely a bit more noticeable. So it's still burning, like I said, not with any significant rate of spread outside of the drainage. I just talked to our fire behavior analyst who was flying over the area earlier, and it seems like the winds are kind of pushing it upslope out of the drainage, but when it gets to kind of flatter area, winds are curling back, and it's almost burning into itself in that area. So that is obviously favorable for containing the fire in that area. We currently have helicopters bucketing in the area, and we have heavy machinery, and our wildland firefighting crews are working to build guard. I will do that line. So they have been working kind of in this direction here, up and across, and today they were trying to get a line in this direction over the top of this tip, where there was a bit of an excursion yesterday evening, again, where that sort of finger developed on that part of the fire. The other area of activity right now is kind of along this area, so I'll circle it here. There is, again, the fire is just in some heavier fuel where it is currently burning a bit more hotter and active and putting off some of that smoke. So again, we have bucketing helicopters in that area. It's also, again, if anyone is in the area, and if you're not, I'll let you know, it's pretty windy here as well. So that's contributing to some of that fire behavior out there. And also just high temperatures. We're back into in this area, low 30s to mid 30s. Once we get into that daytime heating, it will probably push a bit warmer. And so that's definitely contributing to some heightened fire behavior. And that's currently where we're seeing our most active fire behavior. Throughout most of the fire, actually, I just flew the northern half of it this morning, and it was fairly minimal fire behavior. There definitely was some smoke, but not anything that's putting off this amount of smoke. It's mainly from that eastern area. So I will just stick with the update for that eastern area and start into sort of our operations and what we have going on the ground. So we do have a unit crew currently working on that eastern side. They've been working kind of along this, I'll just draw again here in black, along this tip, and then they've now been working with that machine, heavy machinery, to work up and around and putting guard in this direction. Currently, with the active fire behavior, they're probably not able to engage in direct attack, but previously, aside from yesterday evening, the fire behavior has been fairly minimal in the last 4-ish days. And so they've been able to put in guard where possible. Again, this is a bit of a challenging area in terms of topography and sort of the terrain. So heavy machinery is a bit difficult to get access to everywhere, but I believe we have heavy machinery where we need it as of now, and they're working in that direction up and around. And so they've been tight lining right up against the fire perimeter in the past few days. And that's really allowed us to get a head start into what we are currently experiencing in a bit more heightened fire activity. And so given that they were having a little bit of lower fire behavior, that should give them a pretty good control lines in that area. And with the aerial resources we have, there will be smoke, and it is definitely active, but not any significant rate of spread at this time. And again, the skimmers have been also working. I don't think they're working currently right now. I can check on that. I don't see them on my dispatch map right now, but if those are needed, then they always are able to request those. And they've been quite successful in cooling down the fire. They worked where I'm currently drawing, sort of in this area, a 600-meter line somewhere in there. The other day, it was burning rank 3, and the skimmers were able to get in there, and they worked for about 3.5 hours and kind of cooled it down. So those are really requested whenever our bucketing helicopters are starting to either have more targets than they can get to, or when we just need a significant amount of water, as those skimmers can, with the proximity to Okanagan Lake, they can basically do a very tight run in terms of water pickup and have a lot of water provided. So I'll move on from there in terms of what our wildland crews are, and I'll come back to structure protection at the end of my update. So the other areas of focus that we have, where we have quite a heightened response in terms of our crews, are up in the sort of Paxton Monty area. So this is the area I flew this morning. Currently, so I know there's a lot of yellow stuff on here, and it's kind of hard to see, but Highway 97 would come down sort of somewhere in this area. And so they're working from the highway north up around the tip of this fire here. And they've been working with helicopters and machines for the last 2 days to put guard in, basically right against the fire's perimeter, but where it's inaccessible, they will use sort of natural features, or they will use existing roads. And so they've been kind of having a pretty efficient operation up there. There's a unit crew, we have an initial attack crew, and then we also have a few single resources helping out with that line locating and machine operations. So about 30 firefighters, and then various heavy equipment in the area. And they have so far successfully been able to get all on this eastern side, guard put in, and where they put guard, they kind of work right close up to the fire. And so they're working in this sort of this lake area. I'll zoom in actually, and a bit hard to see on this large map. We'll zoom in and kind of can show you a bit more closer where they're working once that loads in. So they have currently got right up to it's being caught a lake, I believe. And so they're working from that lake south along the fire, and they're also working north along the fire in proximity of the guard, like I mentioned. So kind of in this direction down, and then from the lake up and around and connecting to Paxton Lake. They currently have pretty much got all the way around to Paxton Lake. That's where they're working on finishing today. And then a couple of other of our firefighters are working from Paxton Lake from the highway, and they'll kind of meet at that lake. So that's currently what the crews are doing in that area. When they build guard, they will use they'll use hand ignitions to remove any fuel left between where they put guard in by the fire and where the wildfire is. So we don't leave any fuel between our guards and the fire. And that means that when the fire comes to the guard, it's met with black, and it's not met with fuel that it can consume and spot across our guards. That's been working pretty successfully. We haven't had any major challenges in that area in the last few days. It's probably due to a bit of a break in the weather and winds, but also as a response to kind of the work that's been done by both our crews and then all the equipment operators and aerial operators that are in that area. So this, honestly, up in here, when I flew it, it was smoking a little bit. It's not looking very active at this time. And so that's obviously promising in terms of having some good news for that sort of Paxton Valley, Monty Lake area in any further fire spread. So I'll just keep moving down along the western flank of the fire. And so along the private FSR here, there was a fairly large kind of stretch of perimeter all along this perimeter here, and any fuels that were inside of this between the perimeter and then where they put that tight line right up against the fire's edge, that was again removed using hand ignitions yesterday and has held. There's no fire activity there today. I flew that line and it looks very beautiful. There's minimal fire activity and it's held exactly where they want it to. So minimal concern or threat of that progressing in any further direction in a westerly manner. And so moving just down the line, apologies for the long update, but this is a very large fire. So back into Division Zulu, so on that western side, again, so this is looking quite good in terms of our control over this part of the fire perimeter. It's been mainly burning rank 1 and rank 2. Probably will pick up a little bit in pockets in daytime heating today, but hasn't been significantly active like we're seeing on the eastern side. And so we have, again, some unit crews working in conjunction with machine operators and supported by aerial resources where needed. I'll just kind of scroll the map and it won't draw anywhere because it's fairly obvious when we go by division. So into Division A along the southern part of the fire, they've been working for the last couple of days right up against the fire edge, conducting direct attack. So they are able to get right water to the fire, and there is basically the strategy is extinguishment of the fire. We haven't had to use any ignitions along this part of the fire. It's burning at a low enough velocity in terms of spread and in terms of behavior that they're able to get right up against the fire. And then moving along into sort of Division B, which is that eastern side of the southern flank of the fire. They are currently having machinery, like I said, where in the beginning of the update, they've got machinery running along here, working to put in control lines. And above all of these communities, so in Clinny Beach and West Shore Estates, and moving up around, so sort of in the Bow Park Road area, they're working on getting equipment right close to the fire's edge and putting primary contingency lines there. But I will zoom out a bit on this map here. We also have some pretty large secondary contingency lines going in. So currently there's about 15 odd pieces of equipment and supported by some crews, but mainly this is just an equipment show. And they are putting in line from Thin Tree, there's a wood road here. So it starts somewhere here and it's following the Stewart Road. So somewhere around here, I can't quite see the lake names, but there's a Stewart Lake and then connecting all the way down to Chaparral Lake and up and connecting into the Douglas Lake Road. So there's it's 50K plus in terms of contingency line and basically daylighting roads that exist in there and where there's no roads connecting to natural features. So that's sort of a large secondary contingency line should the fire spread any further south. And in the north, we also have a fairly large contingency line going in along the Duck Range Road, which this is kind of where that Duck Range Road is area here, and connecting to Mount Martin and connecting into some rock bluffs here, and then again connecting all the way to the road that exists here to the highway. So that's another pretty large secondary contingency line that is being put to limit the spread in a northerly fashion. And then I can't zoom out large enough on the map because this is further outside of that, and I'll extend a little bit further. But from Pillar Lake, which I guess is, I believe this is Pillar Lake. I don't want to zoom in and have the map refresh. But from Pillar Lake along these communities here and then connecting up in a northwest direction, we're looking at potentially, if we need to, and if fire behavior and models kind of lean in this direction, looking at the possibility of putting in a fairly large fire break for about a 3-kilometer stretch, and then deploying a mass water system within that fire break. I know that this was previous to my time being on the fire, but there was a similar tactic deployed elsewhere on this fire, and it was quite successful before there was that rank 6 firestorm a few days ago, or almost a week ago at this point, which at that point, that amount of energy and viciousness of a fire, there's really not much any human can do at that point. So aside from that extreme fire behavior, which from what I've been talking to some of our operations folks who have worked in wildfire for decades, that's some of the most extreme fire behavior they have ever observed, or the most extreme fire behavior, depending on how long they've been around. So aside from that, sort of system of a fire break and a mass water system is fairly effective. And so again, that's not currently being deployed, but if needed, that's definitely something that's been scoped out and would almost be a third contingency line to prevent the fire from spreading in a northerly direction. The last thing I'll mention, and I will kind of keep going with this update because I know I've been getting a lot of questions on this, is structure protection. So how structure protection works from the BC wildfire side of things is we engage with agency assistance from municipal and regional district and First Nations fire departments. So any local authority that has a fire department, they will sort of assist us on their own jurisdiction, and they will engage in their normal structure protection duties along their jurisdiction. For any areas that fall outside of a fire department protection area, that's where the BC Wildfire Service Wildland Structure Protection Branch comes into play. And so we also have our own equipment and our own specialists that are trained in structure protection. And then anywhere in sort of the more rural areas outside of a structure or sort of out of a fire department protection area, we still do triage and engage in structure protection. And so at this point on this fire, almost every single structure that is currently at risk, has been at risk, is within the fire perimeter, outside the fire perimeter. It's been triaged by either a fire department structure protection branch or our own BC Wildfire Wildland Fire structure protection branch. So I know that there's been concerns of lack of resources in areas, and this is obviously a very large fire, and it is an interface fire. Almost every stretch of the fire around the entire perimeter in terms of how many properties and structures are in the area. And so our structure protection branch, including and working with the agency assistance branches from the municipal and regional districts areas, we work to triage structures, and where defendable, we set up on them, whether we do, BC Wildfire Service, or the fire department that is assisting us. We will set up and engage in structure protection no matter where the property exists, as long as it is a defensible structure. And so that has many different variables, and this is people's entire expertise and line of work, and this is what they do for a living in terms of assessing and triaging those properties and where there is imminent threat and where that gear is needed. There is only so many engines and so much gear in the province that can be put onto a fire like this, and we now need to think about all the other fires that are currently burning that are also needing mass amounts of structure protection. So in all reality, there is not enough engines, tenders, enough equipment to set up on every single structure all at once. So it is on a needs assessment and an imminent threat basis. So where structures are imminently threatened is where you'll find the actual structure protection apparatus in that area and being set up on houses. If you are in an area where you may be 2 kilometers plus from the fire, it's not that you're not going to get structure protection. It's that if possible, if the fire moves in that area and it's a defendable structure, there will be structure protection that can engage in that as structures are imminently threatened. So we don't have enough gear to put on every single structure in a 10-kilometer radius from this fire in every direction, from the fire's perimeter, I should say. That's just not a reality that we're living in currently. And so it is based on where there is imminent threat. And so where there is imminent threat and we can defend that structure or structures, if it's a more dense neighborhood, that will be set up on. So there's extensive structure protection throughout the Momich Lake, Paxton Valley area in terms of where we have our structural folks. In the intermix, so where there's a structure that's kind of surrounded by dense wooded areas, we've done assessments in the middle of the fire. We've done assessments, and where we are able to, we have set up structure protection. And then down on the west side too, we have a very robust structure protection branch in that area. They have 6 mass water systems moving water from Okanagan Lake up into their lines that are currently charged and feeding all of the then apparatus and sprinklers, et cetera, that run off those lines. And they've also bolstered the regional district's fire hydrants. So there's a lot going on, and we've had a couple of days of minimal fire behavior to get set up in all those areas. And so structure protection is quite robust along all that West Side Road in those communities. And I know if you're checking the Wildfire of Note page, and so I'm the person that updates that, if I haven't specifically mentioned your road or kind of the area that you live in, it's not that you're not getting structure protection. I kind of go based on what structure protection tells me in terms of communities or places. If it's more of an area, like a rural area that may be off of an FSR, and I haven't mentioned that, it's not that we have missed it, it's just that I can't list every single road where structure protection is engaged in. So I would just like to kind of alleviate some concerns over where structure protection is or isn't. Where there's not a fire department, we have looked at, and if possible, we will set up on. And where there is a fire department jurisdictional area, they will be engaging in that, assisted by us and assisting us. So I will leave it at there for sort of the structure protection speech, but there is structure protection engaged throughout most of this fire where possible. It's a very large fire, tons of interface, but we are doing what we can with the resources that we have. And again, I would like to remind everyone to take a bit of a step up and think about where the province is in terms of just getting into core fire season, honestly, in terms of where we are having conditions of extreme fire behavior, and across the rest of Canada too. The Canada is under extreme fire load, not only in BC. And so there's only so much resources that can go around. And to be very honest, all the money in the world doesn't buy resources that don't exist. And so we are engaged with everything that we can get and with everything that currently exists. And it's not an issue of money. It's an issue of there's only so many resources that are currently in existence that can go around on these fires. And so I would just encourage people, if you have specific questions about your area, instead of getting that information from social media, please just call me. My information is on the Wildfire of Note page. I have a phone number, I have an email. If I don't pick up my phone, please just send me an email. Honestly, I have a lot of voicemails and I only have one phone for this incident and I get a ton of calls. So if you don't hear back from me, please just email me. The Fire of Note page has all that update. And I will do my best to get you specific answers, but please don't take that from social media where there may not be accurate answers. So either go to your regional districts or your local authorities webpage, or you need to talk to me as the BC Wildfire Service rep, and I can get you that direct information. And the Emergency Operations Center can get you that information, because to be quite honest, there's a lot of misinformation going around on social media for this fire. And I don't have the ability to monitor and correct all of that misinformation on social media. So please just talk to me directly if there is any specific questions for your area. So I'll leave it at that for my update. I know it was quite lengthy, but there's a lot going on this fire, and I'll pass it back to my colleagues if there's other BC Wildfire Service info officers on the line.
Thanks very much, Forrest. I'll just kind of take it back and then we'll continue on. But I just wanted to say thank you for that quite significant update on the White Rock Lake wildfire and a few good reminders of who to contact if you have specific questions. So if you're looking for information on the fire activity and what's happening in terms of structural protection or planned ignitions or anything of that nature, as Forrest mentioned, please contact the information officer for the Wildfire of Note. They have some significant and very detailed information updates posted daily on all of the current wildfires in the area. And of course, if you have questions on evacuation orders, alerts, things of that nature, are looking for access passes or other sorts of things, please contact your local authority, whether it's the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, one of our neighboring regional districts, member municipalities, or First Nations communities. So there are a lot of us engaged this season with all of the activities. So very good reminder on kind of who to contact for what. And certainly reaching out to us both in the local government side and BC Wildfire side. We're all happy to talk with you and take your questions and give you a little bit more information, and would certainly prefer to give it to you from our perspective, as it does get cause confusion again with a lot of the sort of misinformation that is happening out there. So we're here to help. Please reach out if you have questions. So with that, I think we are going to get an update next from BC Wildfire on the Sparks Lake complex. Somebody, yep.
Hi there. Yep, that's me here. So I guess I'll introduce myself. First, my name is Erin Bull. I'm an information officer with the BC Wildfire Service. And we have recently taken over from the previous team, which was an Australian team here on the Sparks Lake complex. So our fires of note included in that are, of course, Sparks Lake, as well as the Tremont Creek wildfires. So we'll start off with the Sparks Lake wildfire. I'll just turn my camera on there as well. Hi everyone. So we'll start off with the Sparks Lake wildfire. So the most recent size we have for that is 6,900 or 69,000, sorry, 770 hectares. There probably was a bit of a decrease from the size yesterday. The last perimeter did include the Young Lake wildfire as well. I think there's been some wording that they have merged while they are essentially touching. There's a bit of a road separating them, and they are still being managed as two separate fires. So the reason for the change is because we have taken out the perimeter of the Young Lake wildfire. Fire activity continues to be fairly reduced on the Sparks Lake wildfire. Most activity we're seeing still is on the north flank. So we do have about 110 firefighters, 10 helicopters, and 38 pieces of heavy equipment who are engaged in that area. And they're engaged in direct attack. Helicopters are supporting with bucketing activities. And they do continue to look for opportunities for ignitions on that north flank there in various areas. There still is some unburned fuel between the perimeter of the fire and the fire guard. So if conditions allow, they will potentially engage in either or both aerial and hand ignition. So we'll look for opportunities for that in the coming days. That being said, we are expecting warmer temperatures, lower humidity, and perhaps some increased winds over this whole area in the coming days. So we will be remaining vigilant for that on both the Sparks Lake fire and the Tremont fire. So more active in the last few days has been the Tremont Creek wildfire. So our latest size for that is 33,238 hectares. There has been quite a bit of smoke, very visible from that fire from many surrounding communities, including Kamloops, I'm sure Logan Lake, Cache Creek, the highway as well. So we have been engaging in controlled ignitions in the Mount Savannah area for the last, well, today and yesterday. And that is putting up a fairly significant column of smoke. For people who are living nearby, there likely is some flame, some trees kindling that's visible from there as well. But the ignitions have been going very well, according to plan, no major issues. We are monitoring the conditions always to ensure we have those optimal conditions before we do begin the ignitions. And that has been our primary focus. So we do have 7 helicopters, 99 firefighters, and 38 pieces of heavy equipment there as well. So essentially in the Mount Savannah area, the fire has been burning in some fairly steep terrain that isn't workable by our ground crews and our heavy equipment. So by doing these ignitions, we aim to bring the fire to an area that we can engage in direct attack. And we're doing the ignitions in a time when the fire is going to burn with less intensity than if we are getting those heavy winds and the fire will burn in a higher intensity. That's more difficult for us to engage in suppression. So that's continuing today. There is a good chance it could continue tomorrow as well if conditions allow, and crews might be engaging in some hand ignitions throughout the evening too. So in the coming days, there probably will be some continued smoke that's visible from that area. And again, we only engage if we have the optimal conditions for that. We have forecasters who are looking ahead to the weather that we're expecting. So a lot of planning does go into that. I'd say that's the most of where our efforts are focused now. We still do have some ground crews who are engaged more on the southern flank of that fire, but the Mount Savannah area is where most of our personnel are for the time being. And I'd say that's it for me.
Great, thanks very much for that update.
Thank you.
And yeah, we did actually receive in our TNRD EOC quite a number of calls and inquiries about some of the increased smoke and activity that people saw. So thanks to BC Wildfire for sharing that post out yesterday on the planned ignition that was happening in the area out near the Tremont Creek wildfire. And we were able to share that with our followers as well. So as things continue on, we'll obviously be holding these update meetings on a regular basis, but yeah, really good information for people in the communities who might have been wondering what they're seeing out there. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to get a bit of an update for the Lytton Creek Complex wildfires. I believe if we have somebody from BC Wildfire to talk about the Lytton Creek Complex. Yes, there we go.
Yes, just loading up the camera there. Thanks
Great.
for having me. It's John Stacer here, Information Officer for the Lytton Creek Complex of Wildfires. I'll start with the Lytton Creek wildfire. And just to note that fire is still out of control and approximately 52,000 hectares in size. We have about 81 firefighters on this fire right now and 29 pieces of heavy equipment. And about 6 helicopters are working today on this fire. And structure protection personnel are shared within this complex. So today on the east side of the fire, crews are continuing to monitor a planned ignition area that we lit a few days ago just to the west of Shakin. And this was to tie in and remove some fuel in between the fire's edge and a power line fire guard that we've set up there. And so that's went really well. Most of that fuel's been removed and the fire continues to back down into the creek, and it is fully within the containment perimeter set up there. There's some smoke visible in the area. It's been slightly visible there for a few days. But that is all from that planned ignition. There is additional smoke coming off of the Lytton fire as well in the south portion out of Platte Creek. So that will be quite visible to kind of areas that can see into the south end of the fire there. But all that is within the perimeter of the wildfire as well. To the kind of northwest side, we have helicopters doing some bucketing on hot spots in the Botany Valley area on the west side towards the Fraser River, and crews also continue to do some mop-up operations on the east side of the Botany Valley as well. I just got some photos from our operations chief over the course of this afternoon here, and it looks really good in that area. Not a lot of activity. They're also strengthening some fire guards in that area. They're removing vegetation along the Lalawison Forest Service roads, connecting some of those into creeks and other natural features. And they're also removing vegetation along the Isman Forest Service roads. So this guard's looking quite strong. They use the term daylighting for this, and I have had some people mention to me that they thought the term daylighting was referring to lighting fires in the daytime, but just to clarify, that is when you remove vegetation from the sides of roads to create fuel-free zones and brings more daylight into the area as well. And we have structural protection up in that area in the Turnip and Onion Lake areas now. They've set up around some of the structures in that area and can use those if it's needed. Moving on to the McKay Creek fire to the north, that's fire 1030. The fire is about 11 kilometers north of Lillooet along West Pavilion Road and is approximately 32,610 hectares in size and also considered out of control. We now have about 38 firefighters on this fire, and we're using heavy equipment, helicopters up there as needed, and structure protection personnel as well. A few days ago, when the fire was quite active, there was a decent amount of fire activity kind of on the southwest portion of the fire near the Apple Springs drainage. And since then, we have set up a fire guard in coordination with the Bridge River community there. They had already started a great fire guard, and that's now been strengthened as well around the Apple Springs and Bridge River communities. So there's a strong defensible position there. And the fire activity has been pretty low in that area over the past few days since it rained, and also with the lower temperatures and higher humidity. There is some activity on this fire right now, just north of that area. I think it's in a drainage or two north, so there's a bit of a column of smoke that will be visible, but that is farther to the north and not expected to be causing any problems right now. So we are working with the communities in that area to determine all options to protect those structures. In the George Road fire, that's fire 804, it's just south of the Lytton Creek fire. That fire is approximately 1,500 hectares at the size, and we've got some structure protection planning that's gone into place in the Scuppa Indian Band area, as the fire is located above their community. We've had line locators establishing plans for fire guard construction around some structures, and there's been an assessment completed as well. If needed, equipment can be deployed, and all that equipment's being inventoried right now. We also have some suppression activity going on the Mohawk fire. So this fire is mostly located within the Coastal Fire Center, but it's being managed by this incident management team. The size of this fire right now is about 3,800 hectares in size, and it is considered out of control. We've seen some, as with all the fires, some pretty low fire behavior there over the past few days, but the fire behavior started to increase a little bit today. A bit more smoke's been visible. And so we've had about 3 helicopters out there bucketing in the southwest corner of that fire. We also have a heavy equipment team down there, vegetation, doing this work to remove fuel alongside the Forest Service roads on the Mohawk and Forest Service Road. This will allow us again to create some strong defensible guards should they be needed. That's tied into some natural rocky features as well. When it does get hot and dry, this fire will be visible from Highway 1 and surrounding communities, especially the communities of Boothroyd and Kanakabar. So just in terms of fire activity and behavior and weather across the complex, we have seen today warming and drying trend. It's forecast for the next few days. And so we are expecting to start seeing increased fire behavior across all the fires in the complex. As an example, this morning when our first observation flights went through the complex to check all the fires out, we noticed fire activity was exhibiting more smoke production already this morning than we had seen through the peak burning periods over the past few days. So while it did look like these fires maybe had quieted down, they will start to wake back up again. What we're expecting today and tomorrow in terms of fire behavior and activity is some additional smoke production, visible surface fire, the intermittent torching of trees, and some minor fire movement and growth in unburnt pockets of vegetation. So we'll keep a close eye on this. And as always, you can continue to find updates on our Wildfires of Note pages. All 4 of these fires are now Wildfires of Note, so we'll be keeping those up to date throughout the days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that update on the Lytton Complex fires there. I think we did have one final update maybe on the Momich Lake wildfire from BC Wildfire. And again, if anyone from BC Wildfire Service who is on the line with us needs to leave, as I know we are, it's a little bit of a longer update today. We understand if you need to head out now, and we thank you very much for your time today. But I think I had heard that some people might have had some previous meetings that they needed to attend at 4:30 or so. So anyways, just wanted to give that heads up if there is anybody that needs to pop off the line, and then we will get a final update on the Momich Lake wildfire from BC Wildfire today.
So good afternoon. My name is Rosalind McCauley, and I'm the complex, which includes the Momich Lake fire. Can everybody see the map that I was sharing?
Yeah, we can see that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the Momich Lake fire, we've been working with industry to build machine guard around the majority of this fire, and that includes the southwest and part of the east. And over the past few days, we've had lower fire behavior for the majority of the fire, which includes rank 1 and rank 2. Yesterday, we started to see increased fire behavior in the northeast and east in this area. And this continues today, which we are actually seeing significant fire behavior today with smoke. And where the fire behavior is producing some growth in that area this afternoon. For the other areas of the fire, as I mentioned, we have established machine guard, and with the cooler temperatures that we had the last couple of days, or I guess more in the weekend, crews were able to get in there and do some direct attack. And including the area where we have significant growth today, but they were pulled off this area this afternoon due to the fire behavior. It was mapped at just over 7,000 hectares. It was at 7,346 hectares, and that was from yesterday. And we currently have 66 pieces of heavy equipment and 37 firefighters working on this fire. And we also have 5 structure protection personnel working to monitor the structure protection equipment that is in place, and that continues to be in place. And there's also a small fire that's off this map, but I'll pull it down. So it's just, I guess, just north of Adams Lake. And in our system, we're calling it Michael Creek. And we did put alert on an area in the vicinity of this fire. And according to the information on the alert, it's being called Momich Creek. So on the wildfire dashboard, if anybody's looking on that, it's referred to K21478, which is Michael Creek, but the alert is mentioning Momich Lake. And for that fire, we had skimmers working on the west side today because it was very active. And yesterday we had equipment go on to this fire to start building guard in the northwest. And there are some residents along Adams Lake that today structure protection is in there putting equipment on the applicable structures. And that fire was around about 200 hectares. And we don't have any current size information with respect to that fire. And that's all I have for today.
Great, thank you very much for that update. And I'll share it with everyone who still remains on the call with us after we're done hearing. Well, that was our final update from BC Wildfire, but I'll share the TNRD's evacuation status dashboard today, so we can kind of address all of the different wildfires that we heard about today, including that last one from Momich Lake. That was the TNRD who issued an alert for that earlier this afternoon. So again, thank you to everyone from BC Wildfire for attending this meeting and providing an update for us today. It was very informative. We didn't have any specific questions to answer from our public submissions today. I believe there was a specific question around the structural protection in the White Rock Lake wildfire area, which Forest Tower talked quite extensively about earlier at the start of the meeting. When we upload this meeting, you can view it on YouTube later. I will also add a chapter so you can skip right to any of these particular wildfires that you're interested in hearing the updates from for today. I know that there's quite a lot of interest and activity happening around White Rock Lake wildfire, and we had quite a good briefing on that one today. So again, thank you to everyone from BC Wildfire for joining us today. We will, I think most of them have already signed off and gotten back to doing their work and providing all the information on what's happening with the wildfire situation. So to finish things off, we've already had quite a long meeting today, but I will spend a little time sharing the dashboard for the Thompson-Nicola Regional District's evacuation orders and alerts. We also didn't receive any specific questions from the public today. So just at this point, I'd like to remind anyone who is here today that we don't do a live Q&A session during these meetings. However, we do have a submission form on our website so that you can submit your questions in advance, and then we can make sure that we have the agencies on the line who might be able to answer those. We will always have BC Wildfire and the Thompson-Nicola Regional District here. Sometimes you'll hear from RCMP, BC Hydro, or other agencies that may need to provide an update or answer any questions from the public. So we continue to encourage using that submission form so that we can address your questions live. Or if there is something more urgent that you need to know, for example, specific address where there might be structural protection in an evacuation order area, to contact the BC Wildfire Service Information Officer for that fire. They have pages on their website with updates once or twice a day on all of these wildfires of note, talking about structural protection, planned ignitions, and other activities that are happening out there on the wildfire scene. And of course, to contact your local government, whether it be the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, First Nation, or other municipality or regional district about any impacts on the evacuation orders and alerts where you are. So I'm just going to share my screen here so we can have a look at what we all heard from wildfire, and we can kind of look at those wildfire notes, and I can give a brief update on what that's looking like for the Thompson-Nicola Regional District's orders and alerts. Okay, so we should be looking at a screen here with the, it's our emergency management, or it's our emergency management dashboard. So this is the view from inside the Emergency Operations Center we get. We do have this as a public facing dashboard as well, available on our website for visitors to come and have a look at and see what's happening in a specific address. You can search by address when you're on this to see exactly what's happening for your property or an area that you're interested in looking at. As you can see, I'm going to have a look at the White Rock Lake fire here first, which is this large area that's, we've got red and orange and green showing on our map right now, as we did have a reduction in size of the alert and order area boundaries over the last couple of days. So it was a little bit larger than this in terms of properties and addresses that were on evacuation order and alert. Now it's a little bit less. We were able to take a few hundred address points downgraded to either an alert status or all clear, due to recommendation from BC Wildfire, and of course the direction that the fire is going in has been a little bit more to the north and to the east, as we heard earlier from from BC Wildfire. Also, as you can see, there's a black border here on the right-hand side, and that's where the Thompson-Nicola Regional District boundary ends. But of course, that's not where the fire ends. So you can see some of the spillover of the fire and the impact on some of the surrounding communities. For example, we have the community of Falkland here, who has an active evacuation alert in place from Columbia Shuswap Regional District, and some other large areas that are on evacuation alert from the Regional District of North Okanagan. So of course, we local governments and BC Wildfire all collaborate on these so that we can ensure that the safety of residents on no matter where they live, how this wildfire is impacting people and properties. So there is quite a lot going on depending on where you're living. So if you do visit the Thompson-Nicola Regional District map on our website, you will still be able to see, if you click on something, if it was issued maybe by the TNRD or otherwise. So it's a very helpful way that even if you might not be living within the TNRD, you might be very close to the boundary, you're not exactly sure, please come and check out our website. We can you can have a look on the map and kind of get a clearer picture of where you might be impacted. So as I mentioned, it was positive for us to hear these last couple of days that we could reduce several properties from order down to alert. That means people can access those properties again. However, a large portion of this is still under evacuation order. So we will certainly be keeping a close eye on that in these coming days. As we also heard, we're getting some more hot weather coming, and that could increase fire behavior and activity. So please keep an eye on our website and social media to see if there's anything coming out. Or of course, if you're registered for our emergency alert notification system, Voyant Alert, if you have an evacuation order for a property or an address that you've indicated you want to hear from us on, if that's an order or alert, you'll get that directly to your mobile device via SMS or app, or to a home phone. You'll get that kind of delivered right to you. So that's another way, just another channel for us to be able to keep people up to date with what might be happening and impacting them. So I'm going to move over to the next one we heard from BC Wildfire today was the Sparks Lake Complex. So Sparks Lake Wildfire and Tremont Creek. So I'm just going to shift the map over here. And that takes us to Sparks Lake, which is right here on our map. And again, in the last few days, there have been some changes and a reduction in the number of evacuation orders here due to recommendations from BC Wildfire. So while you still see quite a lot of red on this map, the red is an evacuation order that's in place. It used to be more, and now you'll see more orange on here, which indicates an evacuation alert remains in place. So while we have been seeing, some recommendations to sort of downgrade in order to an alert, there still remains a significant area up here. Of course, we've kind of got the Sparks Lake fire you'll see in the middle. As was mentioned previously, the Young Lake fire, they said those two fires are kind of touching now. So they're changing sort of the wording around maybe the fire name, but we still have them on our map as the Sparks Lake and Young Lake. So that's why it is such a large number of properties that are impacted around here. And then moving south, there's the Tremont Creek fire, which we also heard a little bit about. So that one's further south. And that was the one where we had heard an update where they had some planned ignitions on the front yesterday due to a bit of a break in the weather, where BC Wildfire was able to go in and do some planned ignition, but it did produce a lot of smoke. And we were hearing from a lot of people in the area asking if there was something new or something to be concerned about, and confirmed that BC Wildfire had some planned ignitions, and they indicated that they will they will continue to do those as they have, you know, the opportunity due to weather and things like that. So we'll certainly be keeping a very close eye on the activity happening over there. And then I'll just do a quick overview of the Lytton Complex and Momich Lake, which were the two additional fires that we heard from BC Wildfire today. So Lytton Complex is just over to the southwest of the Tremont Creek area. So as you can see, there's actually a few fires, which is why the wildfire officer speaking with us called them a complex fire, which you'll hear them speaking about when we're hearing from these updates. So there's more than one wildfire within the wildfire complex, and they have a variety of resources that are kind of shared across battling these fires. So we have nothing much new in terms of evacuation orders and alerts that has been recommended in this area. So that is, you know, it's good news for the people who are living out here in terms of, you know, not necessarily being under threat due to the fire that's down there, but there are still active orders and alerts in the area. You can see that the red outline is actually the border of that fire. So you can kind of see it's moving quite up north into this mountainous region, and the orange large alert area is kind of surrounding that with a small evacuation order to the right, which is a Lytton First Nation evacuation order. So not much to update, but of course, keeping an eye on all of these over the coming days and week with the hot weather and weather advisories we're seeing from Environment Canada. Lastly, I will actually, they did also briefly talk about the Mohawken Creek fire, which we do have a small evacuation alert into the TNRD for that. It's actually kind of on the neighboring boundary into the Fraser Valley Regional District, but it had moved up north enough that Wildfire recommended that an evacuation alert be put into place for some properties within the Thompson-Nicola Regional District. So that's going up in through the Kanakabar area. And it was just issued within the last day, I believe that one came out. Let's have a look here. Oh, here we go. So that was on August 7th that we got that. So it has been in place for a few days. We'll be seeing if any recommended changes come for that one. And then finally, Momich Lake, the last one we'll have a look at on our map here, which is just up to the north. This is probably the most recent update. And as mentioned, I believe the information officer chatting with us said that there was actually a different wildfire name, but it was the alert put out from the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, and we had called it the Momich Lake Wildfire on our alerts. So we'll see if there's any change that needs to come in for that in terms of the name from BC Wildfire. But this was the most recent evacuation alert. We had issued this earlier today at around 12 or 1 o'clock. And so this is for just kind of up north of Adams Lake, I believe it was, and is kind of a newer one. We haven't really had a lot of activity from Momich Lake in terms of properties being impacted by it. So certainly keeping a close eye on that. But our most active areas, as you can see on the map, I'll zoom right out so you can get a big overview of what the Thompson-Nicola Regional District looks like. It is outlined in a black border, and then within here you can see all of the names of the major wildfires of note, and all of the orange and red, which is indicating the evacuation orders and alerts, the green indicating all clear. So still a very active looking map. very, very busy here. Certainly haven't seen anything quite like this within our region. So we will continue to be holding these meetings every few days so that we can take and answer questions from public and hear from BC Wildfire some specific things that they're looking at in terms of the fire activity. So with that, I think I just have a couple last things I'll mention, and then we'll wrap up today's meeting, and we'll see you in a few days from now. But we do have a resiliency center that the Thompson-Nicola Regional District is operating. So this is a kind of a one-stop location where evacuees can go if you've been evacuated, if you have any loss of property or vehicles or anything like that. It's somewhere you can go if you have questions about what the next steps are, if you need to start an insurance claim, if you need financial support. Red Cross is there, so they can help you with kind of any supports that you may need while you're under evacuation. It is located in Kamloops, but is actually going on the road this week. So they're taking the Resiliency Center down to a couple of areas where evacuees are congregated. As this year, we have had people evacuating to many different areas as opposed to sort of coming and concentrating in one place like Kamloops. So the Mobile Resiliency Center will be in Merritt on August 12th from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the Best Western Merritt. And it will also be in Abbotsford the following 2 days, August 13th to 14th at the Clarion Hotel and Conference Center. So more information can be found on our website if you're kind of looking for that, if you want to know more. And there's a contact number for the Resiliency Center. You can reach out to them if you're not around, if you're not in Kamloops or Merritt or Abbotsford. You can give them a call and talk to them over the phone, and they can help connect you with a variety of different resources. As I mentioned, insurance, Red Cross, or Service Canada. Some people might have been evacuated without certain pieces of identification and things like that. Some information on our website is being updated regularly for people who are returning from evacuations. So as I mentioned, some of our orders have been reduced, meaning people can go home, and people might be wondering, well, what do I do when I get home with things like a refrigerator that hasn't been functioning, or you're just looking for information on some of the home insurance and things like that. We do have an information package, links to a variety of different things like that you can find on our website, and area specific resources in terms of collection of fridges and freezers and disposal information too. So we'll continue to update that as different areas are going back, as we have a variety of solid waste facilities all throughout the region. I think that's the most important kind of updates we have for today, and I appreciate you sticking with us. It's been quite a long meeting today. We did have some very important information that we heard from BC Wildfire, particularly around the White Rock Lake wildfire, as that's certainly a fire of concern, as they all are, but getting quite a lot of questions and things around that. So again, this will be uploaded on our YouTube channel if you know somebody who would have liked to watch this today, and you can let them know that I'll have that up there before the end of the day today. Thank you to everyone who has signed up and is using the alert notification system, Buoyant Alert, for the Thompson-Nicola Regional District to be able to send those important orders and alerts directly to your devices. We've had some significant growth with people using that, so thank you very much. A reminder for any road closures, as there are a lot of roads and highways being impacted by wildfire, to check Drive BC for the latest conditions on the route that you are taking. And further information will continue to be provided on our website, tnrd.ca, our social media. We have a Twitter and Facebook page, radio and news outlets, as well as our alerting system on Buoyant Alert. So again, thank you very much. Please be safe out there, take care, and We will hold our next meeting within a few days. Bye.